Did you know that over 90% of Australian startups fail within just 3 years? And despite billions poured into tech funding, Australia hasn't produced a true global tech giant since Atlassian? What happened to the dream of becoming the Silicon Valley of the South? Not long ago, Australia was buzzing with promise, unicorn startups, government grants, a booming ecosystem. But today, offices are empty, funding has dried up, founders are fleeing overseas. The dream didn't just fade, it collapsed. Was it bad leadership, a broken culture, or something deeper, something no one wants to talk about? In this video, we're digging into 10 powerful reasons why Australia's tech empire has crumbled, from billion-dollar flops to hidden cultural problems holding back innovation. And trust me, some of these reasons will shock you. Stick around till the end, because the final point might just explain why the dream was doomed from the very start.
Number 1. Lack of long-term vision. At the heart of Australia's tech collapse lies a silent killer: short-term thinking. Many Aussie startups were built with one goal: get big fast, raise funding, then exit. It sounds exciting, right? Fast growth, media attention, investor hype. But behind the scenes, this mindset created fragile companies with no real foundation. Startups rushed to scale before perfecting their product. Teams expanded too fast, money was burned, and CEOs focused more on raising capital than building value. Instead of asking, how can we serve the customer for the next 10 years? They asked, how quickly can we sell or IPO? And when that exit didn't happen, the whole thing fell apart. This approach led to a wave of unsustainable businesses, companies that looked impressive on paper but couldn't survive market pressures. Worse, this build-to-flip culture discouraged innovation. Why experiment or take risks when the goal is to look good for investors? Compare this to global giants like Amazon or Tesla, businesses built with a decade-long vision. In contrast, many Australian startups never planned beyond their Series A round. The result? A tech landscape full of hype and hollow victories. Short-term wins, long-term losses. And here's the kicker. Investors noticed. Burned by flashy failures, they became more cautious, leading to a funding freeze across the ecosystem. So what if Australia had focused more on slow, sustainable growth instead of chasing quick exits? Would things be different? One thing's for sure, without long-term vision, even the biggest dreams don't stand a chance.
Number 2, brain drain. Imagine spending years building world-class tech talent only to see them pack up and leave. That's exactly what's happening in Australia. Every year, thousands of Australia's brightest engineers, developers, designers, and entrepreneurs leave for Silicon Valley, London, Berlin, or Singapore. Why? Because that's where the opportunities are. In Australia, tech professionals often face limited career paths, smaller paychecks, and fewer cutting-edge projects. Meanwhile, companies in the US and Europe are offering bigger salaries, global exposure, and access to massive markets. It's not just about money, it's about ambition. And Australia, unfortunately, hasn't built the kind of tech environment that matches the ambition of its top talent. This creates a brutal cycle. Startups struggle to grow because they can't attract or keep top-tier talent. Then investors lose confidence. Then fewer startups get funded, and in the end, the ecosystem stagnates. Worse still, the people who do stay often face burnout from being stretched too thin. With fewer experts on the ground, teams become overloaded, innovation slows, and companies fall behind global competitors. The term for this phenomenon is brain drain, and it's draining the life out of Australia's tech sector. What makes it even more painful is that Australia has the talent. Its universities produce brilliant grads, its culture breeds innovation. But without the infrastructure and incentives to keep that talent home, the country is left watching its best minds succeed somewhere else. Until Australia figures out how to retain its innovators, the dream of a thriving tech empire will remain exactly that, just a dream.
Number 3. Over-reliance on government grants. At first glance, government support sounds like a good thing, and it is, to a point. Australia's tech sector has long been backed by generous grants, incentives, and tax breaks. But instead of fueling smart, sustainable growth, this easy money often led to dependency and complacency. Many startups shaped their entire business model around grant eligibility, not customer needs. They chased funding rounds, not innovation. And when the money dried up, which it often did, they collapsed. Because without those external injections, they had no real revenue, no product market fit, and no plan to survive. It created what some experts call a grant culture, where founders spent more time writing proposals than solving problems. They built what sounded good on paper, not what the market actually wanted. Even worse, this system rewarded the loudest, not the smartest. Startups with slick pitches and flashy projections often got funded over those doing the hard, unglamorous work of solving real problems. And let's not forget bureaucracy. Grant approval processes were slow, outdated, and inconsistent. This made innovation timelines longer and discouraged risk-taking. Globally competitive tech ecosystems, like those in the US and Israel, thrive not because of government handouts, but because of strong private investment and market-driven pressure. In Australia, the safety net became a trap. Here's the reality. Grants should support innovation, not replace it. But for years, Australian startups leaned so hard on public funding that when conditions changed, many weren't built to survive on their own. Until the focus shifts from government dependency to customer-driven innovation, Australia's tech industry will struggle to stand on its own 2 feet. We put a ton of effort into crafting these stories. If it made you think, drop a comment and share your take. And if you want more deep, no-fluff content like this, subscribe with just one click. It really helps us keep going.
Number 4. Weak global market penetration. One of the biggest mistakes Australian tech companies made? They thought too small. While startups in the US, China, and Europe were designing products for millions, even billions of users worldwide, many Aussie companies focused only on the domestic market, which is tiny by comparison. Let's face it, Australia has a population of just over 26 million. That's not enough to build a scalable, world-changing tech business. Instead of aiming for the global stage, many startups settled for good enough success at home, locking themselves into a local mindset that limited their growth. And when they did try to expand overseas, they were often unprepared. They lacked international strategy, didn't understand foreign markets, and couldn't compete with global players who had deeper pockets, better infrastructure, and more experience. This made expansion risky, expensive, and often unsuccessful. It's not that the ideas were bad. In fact, many Australian startups had brilliant products. But without the right ambition and planning, they were left playing a small game on a big field. Even worse, some founders feared scaling too fast, worrying they'd lose control or burn out their limited resources. That fear kept them comfortable and stuck. Meanwhile, global tech companies like Amazon, Uber, and TikTok swooped in and took over Australian markets, offering faster, cheaper, and more convenient alternatives. The local players couldn't compete. Here's the lesson. If you want to build a tech empire, you can't just think local. Australia had the potential, but too often it lacked the global mindset needed to turn clever startups into world-class powerhouses. Until that changes, Australia's tech dreams will continue to be outsized by its own thinking.
Number 5. The fall of key tech unicorns. Every booming tech scene needs its heroes, those success stories that inspire others, attract investors, and prove that big dreams are possible. But in Australia, some of its biggest tech stars fell, and they fell hard.
Take GetSwift, once hailed as the next Aussie unicorn. Its stock soared after a high-profile ASX listing, backed by bold claims and flashy promises. But beneath the surface, things weren't so pretty. The company was eventually found to have misled investors, faced lawsuits, and saw its value vanish. The damage? Millions lost. Trust shattered. Then there was iSignThis, another highly touted fintech darling. Suspended from the ASX, surrounded by legal battles and controversy, it left investors questioning if any Australian tech company was truly legit. These weren't just isolated failures. They were public crashes that sent shockwaves through the industry. When unicorns fall, they don't fall alone. They take investor confidence, media credibility, and startup morale with them. Suddenly, VCs became cautious. Regulators stepped in. Public markets grew skeptical of tech IPOs. And early-stage startups, the innocent ones, paid the price. It's the classic two bad apples problem. But in a young tech ecosystem like Australia's, a few high-profile failures can taint the entire orchard. The result? Slower funding, stricter rules, fewer risks. And in tech, when risk disappears, so does innovation. Australia needed its unicorns to win. Instead, their downfalls became cautionary tales, stories that scared off both founders and funders. Until the country can produce new heroes with integrity and staying power, its tech scene will struggle to recover from the shadow of those who rose too fast and fell even faster.
Number 6. Poor venture capital infrastructure. A startup is like a fire. You need a spark, a bold idea, and then you need fuel to keep it burning. In the world of tech, that fuel is venture capital. But in Australia, that fuel is in short supply. Compared to Silicon Valley, where billions flow into startups daily, Australia's venture capital landscape is tiny, risk-averse, and heavily concentrated. There are fewer firms, fewer rounds, and much less money to go around. And even when VC money is available, it often comes with tight strings attached or overly cautious conditions that choke growth instead of igniting it. Many founders have shared the same frustrating story. They pitch a great idea, show real traction, but still hear, "Too risky, come back when you're profitable." But here's the problem. Tech startups aren't profitable in their early stages. They grow by raising, spending, and scaling fast. Without aggressive, long-term investment, startups are forced to stay small, play it safe, or die early. This makes it nearly impossible to compete with global companies backed by deep-pocketed VCs who are ready to lose millions before making billions. Worse still, Australia lacks a strong angel investor network and often discourages early-stage experimentation, the very lifeblood of disruptive innovation. It's not that Australia doesn't have the capital. It's that too little of it flows into tech, especially high-risk, high-reward ventures. And here's the catch. Without bold investors, you don't get bold companies. No funding equals no runway. No runway equals no innovation. No innovation equals no empire. Until Australia builds a stronger, braver VC ecosystem, its startups will keep running on empty, and the tech dream will keep slipping further out of reach.
Number 7. Tech leadership crisis. Behind every great tech company is bold leadership. People who not only dream big, but also know how to turn vision into reality. In Australia's tech scene, this kind of leadership has been painfully lacking. Many startups were founded by brilliant technical minds or passionate entrepreneurs, but far too often they lacked business leadership experience. Without the right guidance, even the best ideas stumbled. Companies scaled too fast, spent money poorly, ignored red flags, or simply failed to pivot when the market demanded change. To make things worse, executive roles and boards were frequently filled with people from traditional industries, finance, mining, or government who didn't fully understand tech. As a result, decisions were slow, risk-averse, and misaligned with the fast-moving nature of innovation. Instead of creating agile, future-focused companies, many tech firms became top-heavy, bureaucratic, and resistant to change. The truth is, great tech leadership isn't just about having an idea. It's about navigating chaos, motivating teams, scaling wisely, and keeping vision aligned with execution. That kind of leadership is rare, but critical. And when leadership cracks under pressure, everything crumbles beneath it. Morale drops, product quality suffers, talent leaves, and investors run. Some Australian startups even collapsed, not because their product failed, but because their leadership did. In contrast, successful ecosystems like Silicon Valley and Israel invest heavily in mentorship, founder education, and leadership development. Australia, sadly, has lagged behind in building that support. Until there's a serious focus on leadership quality, not just founder charisma, Australia's tech scene will continue to fall short of its global potential. Because without the right people at the top, even the best tech can't survive the storm.
Number 8. Toxic workplace culture. You can have the best ideas, the smartest people, and all the funding in the world. But if your company culture is toxic, it's only a matter of time before everything falls apart. Sadly, many Australian tech startups suffered from exactly that. Behind closed doors, employees reported burnout, poor management, lack of diversity, and zero work-life balance. Instead of fostering creativity and collaboration, many workplaces became pressure cookers, where unrealistic expectations, unclear direction, and micromanagement were the norm. Talented staff were often overworked and underappreciated. Mental health was ignored. Feedback was dismissed. And in an industry that relies on innovation and agility, this kind of environment is a death sentence. Some companies even embrace the toxic hustle culture, glorifying long hours and sacrificing everything for the mission, without delivering the support or rewards to back it up. On top of that, many Australian startups lagged behind in diversity and inclusion. Leadership teams were overwhelmingly male and often came from similar backgrounds, limiting fresh ideas and alienating large portions of the talent pool. It's no surprise that under these conditions, turnover was high and team morale plummeted. And when employees don't feel safe, valued, or heard, they leave. And when great people leave, so does your competitive edge. Global tech leaders like Google, Atlassian, and Canva have shown that culture is a strategic advantage. Yet too many startups treated it as an afterthought, or worse, a luxury. Here's the hard truth. You can't build a world-class company with a broken internal culture. Until Australian startups start putting people first, no amount of capital or code will save them.
Number 9. Global competition. The tech world doesn't wait for anyone. It's fast, fierce, and dominated by giants. Companies like Amazon, Google, Apple, and TikTok. And unfortunately, many Australian startups found themselves in the ring with heavyweights, without the resources, reach, or readiness to fight. Let's be real. When a local startup launches a great app or platform, it's often just a matter of time before a global competitor copies the idea, outspends them on marketing, and captures the market. And while Australian founders were still tweaking their product or chasing funding, international players were already launching, scaling, and dominating, all within months. Worse yet, these global companies didn't just compete, they suffocated the local ecosystem. They snapped up top talent with higher salaries, they undercut pricing, they set standards so high, most local startups couldn't keep up. It's like trying to win a race where your competitors start 5 laps ahead and your car's still in the shop. And while other countries responded by protecting or supporting their local tech scene, Australia often welcomed global players without any guardrails, leaving local startups to fend for themselves. This intense, uneven competition led to a wave of shutdowns and pivots.
Startups that once had promise were forced to shut down simply because they couldn't survive the global pressure. The sad part? Many of these companies had real potential, but without proper support, scale, or speed, they were outmatched before they could even play. Until Australia finds ways to arm its startups with stronger defenses, smarter strategies, and global ambition, the local tech scene will continue to be a training ground, not a battleground.
Number 10. The tall poppy syndrome. Perhaps the most uniquely Australian barrier to tech success isn't money, talent, or competition. It's culture. More specifically, a deep-rooted mindset known as tall poppy syndrome. In simple terms, tall poppy syndrome is the tendency to cut down those who stand out, succeed, or aim too high. And in Australia, it runs deep. Founders who dared to dream big, speak boldly, or chase global success were often criticized, mocked, or publicly torn down. Not for failing, but for trying too hard. While countries like the U.S. celebrate ambition, risk-taking, and larger-than-life ideas, Australia often leans toward humility, modesty, and not getting ahead of yourself. But in tech, ambition is everything. If you're not aiming for global domination, someone else is. This mindset stifles innovation before it even starts. It discourages bold thinking, punishes confidence, and makes many entrepreneurs afraid to stand out, even when they should. Some founders even admitted to toning down their vision when pitching investors or the public, just to avoid being labeled arrogant or unrealistic. It's like asking people to build world-changing companies while making sure they don't act like they're doing anything special. This cultural undertone has held back an entire generation of innovators because no one wants to be the tall poppy, the one who gets cut down for reaching too high. Until this mindset shifts, until Australians start celebrating ambition instead of shaming it, the country's tech scene will keep producing safe bets and small wins while the rest of the world races ahead. To build a real tech empire, you need more than talent. You need the courage to rise, even if it means standing taller than everyone else.
Australia's tech collapse wasn't sudden. It wasn't the result of a single scandal or failed startup. It was a slow, quiet unraveling. 10 problems building over time, each one chipping away at what could have been a thriving, world-class tech empire. From brain drain and weak global ambition to broken leadership and toxic culture, Australia's startup ecosystem wasn't just underfunded, it was undervalued, undersupported, and misunderstood. The dream was there, the talent was real, but the structure, the mindset, the long-term commitment, missing. And while some of these challenges are uniquely Australian, many are universal, warning signs for any country or industry trying to build the next big thing. But here's the truth. It's not over yet. Australia's tech dream isn't dead. It's just been seriously wounded. And with the right shifts, it can rise again, stronger, smarter, and truly global. But only if we learn from what went wrong.
The fall was real, but so is the potential for rebuilding. Here's what must happen for Australia to revive its tech future. 1. Think global from day one. Startups must design products for international markets, not just local audiences. Scaling globally isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. 2. Reform venture capital culture. Australia needs more bold, risk-tolerant investors who support innovation beyond just the safe bets. Government and private sectors should work together to expand funding and reduce red tape. 3. Develop stronger leadership and mentorship. Create programs that support founders in leadership development, crisis management, and scaling operations. Learn from ecosystems like Silicon Valley, where mentorship is a key ingredient. 4. Fix the workplace culture. Prioritize employee well-being, diversity, and transparency. A healthy team builds a strong product.
Culture is no longer an afterthought. It's a competitive advantage. 5. Reverse the brain drain. Offer competitive incentives to bring Australian talent home or retain them in the first place. Remote work, global opportunities, and startup equity must be part of the equation. 6. Break the tall poppy mindset. It's time to celebrate big thinkers, bold leaders, and breakout successes. Build a culture that rewards ambition, not one that punishes it. Australia doesn't need to copy Silicon Valley. It needs to become its own version of a tech powerhouse. The foundation is still there. The next generation is ready. All that's left is to stop playing small. So what do you think? Can Australia still rise from the ashes, or is the tech dream truly over? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. If you found this eye-opening, check out our last video for more stories the mainstream never tells. And hey, we pour hours into creating these deep dives, so hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, but it means the world to us.